Welcome to Ethical Hacking Guest and Wholesomeness Podcast. And today I have a special guest, Beau Bullock. He's a author of the best cloud course I ever took, actually. Just wanted to get it out of the way. And wanted to start with a disclaimer. So nothing suspicious happening here. We're just sharing knowledge, talking about cybersecurity. Hopefully someone will get inspired and enter the field. And why am I here? I'm an offensive security specialist that I'm passionate about penetration testing, and I'm also certified with cover access, like physicals, auditor, elicitation. So kind of it's my big obsession right now, physical security and social engineering. So I'm trying to invite people that are very offensive security. So, okay, why am I here? To highlight people that are important in the industry and I think they're cool or they have something to share with the industry, with the people that want to get into the cybersecurity. So I try to invite people that can share knowledge and share some guidance with newcomers or like experienced people as well. And also to share my knowledge, but usually it's the knowledge of the guests and to learn and expand my horizon. But most of all, why am I here? I used to be terrified of public speaking, so I kind of created the podcast to push myself into talking more in English and talking more live. And just did it. I did it to push myself and to learn to be a better public speaker and better professional, actually. And today I have Beau Bullock here. He's my colleague from Black Hills Information Security. And I already said specialist on cloud security. And I wanted to welcome you on my podcast. Thank you for coming. And if you could introduce yourself to everyone, that would be brilliant.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. This is exciting, and it's funny you mentioned how you started the podcast to get better at public speaking. I kind of did the same thing too. Back when I first started doing actually back when I first started working for Black Hills, one of the first things that I ended up doing here is John Strand, the owner of our company. He used to do a show called Hack Naked TV a long time ago, and that show was basically it was a show that was kind of like just the news at the time, right? It was kind of an infosec news show. And back in, I think it was like 2014 was when I started doing it. I basically took over from him. And the thing that I learned was that the more you film yourself, right, the more that you develop speaking better, right? Like the more you do it, right? And that's, I think, like one of the biggest things, like for anybody who's trying to get like better at speaking, like just repetition and honestly doing exactly what you're doing is the best way to do it. But anyways, yeah, so I'm Beau Bullock. Thanks for having me on the show. I work at Black Hills. Been here almost 12 years now, which is pretty wild. Before I was here, I worked for a bank doing security engineering. I worked at a hospital before that doing security analyst type stuff. So it's kind of on the blue team first, and then the last 12 years have been all offense. So you mentioned having people that are offense focused. Yeah, so that's kind of what I evolved into and have found my happy spot is working in the offensive space. So yeah, I over the last, I guess, 12 years, I started out doing a lot of different types of security assessments. So I started out doing wireless engagements, web application assessments, external pen tests, internal pen tests, assume compromise, like all of the things, right? Breaking into buildings, that kind of stuff. And then over the years, that helped me get kind of a better mindset for red teaming specifically. And one of the things that I learned is that, as we kind of go through, red team assessments, we were getting in a lot of times through cloud environments. So I ended up kind of pivoting my whole focus to cloud specific focus in general. And that's kind of where my focus has been for the last, maybe even like 7 years now. Has really been on the cloud side. So yeah, I spend a lot of time doing R&D in the cloud space and doing assessments. Yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Thank you. That was actually perfect. I wouldn't do it better than you just did. And my next question is kind of leading to what you just said, but more on the personal side. Who is Beau and what brings him joy?
Oh man, what brings me joy? So, a lot of things do. On the personal side, family for sure. Having, I have a pretty decent sized family, and so being able to spend time with them and do all kinds of fun stuff, with my kids and wife and things like that. Um, but then outside of that, music is the other big thing on the personal side. I write music, I play guitar. I've been playing guitar for, 25 years now. This year will be 25 years. Um, and I guess outside of those things, just security work, right? Like, it's funny because, like, they say, like, you won't have a job if you find something that makes you happy, right? And I basically have been very happy doing cybersecurity work for a number of years, and so that's something that brings me joy too, is like, finding new vulnerabilities, finding new attack surface, right? Being able to help companies, that kind of stuff, absolutely brings me joy as well.
Thank you. And I have a question in the chat. So all of the clouds or one in particular, like Azure,
Yeah,
AWS,
good
or
question.
GCP?
Yeah, so all of them. Absolutely. So, like, I spend a lot more time, I would say, really focused on Azure, and AWS, but end up touching kind of all the different cloud providers, throughout, just the different assessments we end up doing. And one of the things that I teach in my class is that, you can learn offensive techniques against one cloud provider, and a lot of times those exact techniques will work on pretty much every cloud provider. So a lot of the techniques are very similar, in terms of how you would actually go about, like, attacking a different cloud provider. Um, so, at the end of the day, it's really just the different types of services that those other providers are calling things, and also the tools that you're using to interact with them. Those are the main differences.
Uh, I get distracted because my cat is looking at me. So thank you for answering. And yeah, my next question is kind of connected to the course you mentioned. So, what inspired you to create the Breaching the Crowd course, and what motivated you to share your expertise with InfoSec community?
Yeah, so it was directly, tied to the fact that I needed a methodology, myself, like doing cloud assessments, like, 7 years ago, like right around the time, like, I kind of first started doing, like, AWS and Azure stuff. There really wasn't, like, a whole lot of documentation out there for, like, pen test methodology, for attacking those providers. Now there's, like, lots of, like, little things, like, separate from each other, but there was no, like, just structured methodology. Um, so what I wanted to do is, first off, just kind of build out a methodology of, like, how would I go about doing an entire assessment against a cloud provider, starting with recon, starting with, knowing nothing about a company, up through, privilege escalation, persistence, all of that stuff, right? Um, and ended up kind of building out just a lot of content, and ultimately put it in a slide deck, and was like, this is actually probably worth teaching, and ended up, making a course out of it. And that's pretty much exactly what my course is. It's at the end of the day, like, when you take Reaching the Cloud, like, you get a full methodology for attacking, like, any cloud provider. In my class, we basically specialize on AWS, Azure, and GCP for the most part. But at the end of the day, it really ties well to pretty much any provider.
There's a comment in the chat. Can we talk about Microsoft documentation for a while?
Sure. Yeah. Or the lack thereof, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah.
right?
I think that's what the main. Okay, that was yeah, that was the meaning.
Yeah. No, it's so, yeah, Microsoft documentation, it's getting better. It is not perfect by any means, and definitely hasn't been perfect for many, many years. There's still lots of undocumented stuff we're finding, and that's actually one of the things that I've actually been, leveraging, AI pretty heavily to try to ingest a lot of Microsoft's documentation, and maybe, like, the holes that are kind of missing from it, to help kind of glean potential attack paths and stuff too. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's really, they don't put everything out there. Even a lot of the APIs that you would expect there to be well documented stuff. I'm like we as a security community are still finding lots of undocumented stuff that's out there.
It's just like they put the product out and then say, okay, figure it out. Have fun.
Well, yeah, and then they fired like all their people and replaced them with AI, and so now it's even getting worse. I can't remember the exact number, but there's a number I saw recently where it's like 70% of Windows code is written by AI now or something. Yeah, like it was a big
Whoa.
number. Yeah,
Okay. That explains things. Okay.
yeah.
Let's. I digress. Next question: can you share real-world examples or case studies from your experience in breaching cloud environments? How do these experiences inform your teaching and training?
Yeah, so that's I think probably one of the benefits of teaching a class and doing actual assessments, because I do see a lot of environments, right? Like I see a lot of different cloud environments, week in and week out. We are doing assessments for like maybe this week I'm doing an AWS assessment, next week I'm gonna do an Azure assessment, right? Like it could be just kind of back and forth, and the benefit of that is that we get lots of actual real world experience that I can like talk to in the class itself. So, um, when it comes to specific things, right? Like some specific real world things, we see lots of storage accounts that are left open, right? Like publicly accessible things that maybe shouldn't be. We see lots of credentials exposed in configuration files, like so environment variables that are part of like things like Lambda functions and things like that. We see lots of things like just that you would hope wouldn't be a common occurrence across organizations, but they end up becoming a common occurrence. Um, but yeah, in terms of like real world case studies, actually, I did a talk earlier this week where I was discussing Midnight Blizzard and how they hacked Microsoft a few years ago. So Midnight Blizzard was like the Russian APT 29 that they compromised Microsoft themselves, which back then like 2 years ago, like it made a little bit of noise, but it wasn't like, oh my god, like the end of the world. But like at the end of the day, like they had 2 months of access to Microsoft. Um, and to tie it back into your question, like real world case studies, a lot of the exact same techniques that they used back then are things that we're still using for since 2 years ago. And in regard to intra ID, like they basically they started out with a password spray attack. That's something that we do commonly, right? Break in with a password spray. They abused OAuth applications, so they actually like created a new key for an OAuth app that they had permission to in a test Microsoft tenant, stuff we do pretty commonly. They were able to pivot over to a prod tenant because that OAuth application had permissions, like it was over permissioned in the prod tenant. So anyways, there's a lot of things that we can kind of pull, not only from like actual like threat actor case studies, but things that we're doing on pen tests that I can help speak to in the actual class itself. So that's kind of what helps inform the teaching and training side of things.
Thank you. And next question is still connected to the course. So your course focuses on hands-on training for breaching crowd environments. How do you balance theoretical knowledge with practical experience for your students, and what benefits do you think this approach provides? I mean, I just
Yeah,
want to make a comment from my experience because I took the course. So I actually like that I saw that you explain the theoretical parts and you have a lot of experience. So it's just not like you only read the documentation, but actually I could tell that you have hands-on experience and practical like use of all of the cloud environments you've been talking about. And then every theoretical part where like there's like a cherry on top with exercises that you also helped like to complete if someone had problems with that. So yeah, I actually liked how you and everything was timed perfectly as well. So yeah, I actually liked how you designed the
oh,
course.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. No. So I try really hard not to include content that is theoretical in the sense that I haven't done it before, or theoretical in the sense that like it's something that like could be possible, but there's a caveat to it, right? Like maybe I haven't touched it before, haven't actually explored it. I try not to include that stuff because I don't know, at the end of the day, the things that I think are most valuable to like an actual pen tester that's going to take my course, they're going to be able to take and like use today, right? Like not some, theoretical attack that's like, maybe 1 in a million customers you actually, find this thing on, right? But more so the types of attacks and techniques that day in and day out you're going to be able to use. And that's, you know, I try to include like just enough theoretical stuff to really just help provide kind of background for the things that I know, based off of experience, work in actual environments.
Yeah, and that works because you like some courses are just like you listen to the course and then I guess you go, I don't know, make a sandwich and you forget all of it because you didn't do any exercises. And actually, sometimes you learn also like not by doing, but also making mistakes. So you have to create your own project or like tinker with the things that you learn. So yeah, but actually you have all of the components in the course, and yeah, that's how you learn. And yeah, I really enjoyed that course. Okay, but I digress a bit.
Thank you.
Okay, uh, okay, next is a bit different. So, as a director of emerging threats and advanced testing, you'd likely aware of the latest threats and vulnerabilities in cloud security. What industry trends or predictions do you see on the horizon that your course can help prepare professionals for? That's a long question.
Yeah, so in terms of trends, and not just in security specifically, but like in security in general, AI is at the forefront, right? You're going to hear, a lot about AI-based attacks and leveraging AI, but also things like, companies that are leveraging AI within their own products, and it's getting a lot better, like AI usage and the tooling around it, but um, in terms of trends, so something that I've already seen is that, and this is something that I think like is interesting for a lot of people to realize that like when you look at a cloud provider, a lot of modern cloud providers, so Azure, GCP, AWS, they all have ways to actually deploy AI models within their own providers. So you can go to like Anthropic and get a Claude key, or you can go to OpenAI and get an OpenAI key and then talk to it directly. But you can also deploy models like OpenAI models within your own cloud provider itself. So you can actually have a resource in Azure, a resource in AWS, that is actually an AI model. And so one of the things we're seeing a lot of companies do is they're deploying models within their own companies. So they're not using like the SaaS services, but then they're tying other applications to it. So an example, like I did a pen test for a hospital where they had they were using Azure's OpenAI instance, and they had a web app that was tied to it, and they're basically like feeding the backend AI with their patient data so that they could search it easily and like correlate illnesses and things like that. And so that presents its own like set of risks, right? Like it's a little different than the standard stuff we're looking at. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that, right? I think from a trend perspective, you're going to see a lot more companies that are relying heavily on agentic AI approaches to handling a lot of the business side of things. And I just saw today there was actually I can't remember if it was like a full-on RCE. I think it was an RCE in Claude itself. And like there's companies that are already implementing Claude to carry out business purposes. And if there are those serious vulnerabilities like that leak things like API keys, like that could end up being like really bad for a lot of businesses. So anyways, it's gonna help enhance organizations, right? Like you're gonna have plenty of forward momentum that helps be driven by AI, but at the same time there's gonna be a lot more risk too. There's a lot of organizations that are kind of vibe coding applications, if you will, and exposing API keys and things that maybe they shouldn't. So, anyways, I think like in terms of trends, like that's something you're going to see a lot more of.
So, but I have a question like on the side. Do you think that the companies should do that, like go all in into agentic AI and stuff like that? Do you think it's like the technology is ready to go in production and replace people? No, I don't think that is the case. But like, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know the right answer yet. I wouldn't say it's. I don't think it's ever a great idea to just replace people. First of all, with AI, and the reason is because at the end of the day, like you still need to have somebody that is managing it, right? And kind of creating a kind of a governance level over what is actually happening with an AI model. Now, you will absolutely see lots of organizations that are limiting their own workforce and implementing AI in a way that can help like enhance, hopefully, the jobs that are being taken away by a lot of the bigger organizations. But I think that in terms of like actually deploying to production, I would say that it's something you have to be very careful with, because it's a new attack surface, right? It's a very new area. There's a lot of you know variables, I guess is the right way to put it. Like there's lots of variables to how you're using it, how it's being deployed. You know, there's ways you can deploy it where you're just using like local models versus cloud models, and whether you're passing off data to those cloud models and they're training on it, that's a concern too. So there's like lots of different angles, and I guess like the answer to answer your question, there's no like I have no like direct answer yet. I would say be cautious.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have a question in the chat that goes back a bit to the Breaching the Cloud course. So where can we get, where can we take that course if we are interested? I don't think we mentioned that.
Yeah. So I teach it through anti-siphon training, and it's just antisiphontraining.com is the link. And I teach it live multiple times a year. So a lot of the, Black Hills conferences, so Wild West Hack and Fest, I'll teach it at in Deadwood, South Dakota. I also teach it remotely live a lot of times throughout the year. So I don't have anything scheduled right now for a remote class, but probably within the next 3 or 4 months, I'll probably teach it again live, remote. But outside of that, it's on demand as well. So you can go to anti-siphontraining.com, you can sign up, and you can actually take it right now on demand. And what that is like the most recent version of my remote live training class. So I update the class like all the time. So there's always like new updates to it. So anytime I teach it remotely, where I'm basically just recording an entire session remotely, I end up having our anti-7 team turn that into the newest version of the on-demand class. So you get basically like the latest content on demand. So that's the place to get it.
Thank you. And I want to make a comment on my end. So I am kind of like uh, demanding client kind of because I really like taking courses and learning. And some of the courses that I've noticed, I'm not like from all kinds of companies. I took all over. So and offensive security, but sometimes I've noticed the courses are marketed as very like advanced and yeah, for people that like experienced people or like senior. I don't know how to say that exactly, and so they are expensive. But sometimes yeah, just take the course and like, oh, I already know all of that kind of. So I sometimes feel disappointed, but with your course I felt like, okay, worth every penny, and I even had that like exceeded my expectations in a way. So just like, yeah, I cannot get like praise that course enough because it was like so good.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm glad you feel that way. Yeah, no, I try to make it accessible. I guess like kind of come back to like the methodology side of things, like how it really is like a full methodology. Like my whole goal really was to like be able to like give a somebody who wants to be a cloud pen tester like the capability to do that, right? And you don't necessarily have to know anything about cloud really to take class. I mean, it's helpful, right? Like to know some AWS, some Azure stuff, but I try to kind of build it, from scratch. So.
Yeah, because I had no kind of like I had some experience, but like not like working experience. But after taking your course, I could pretty much just go and like do stuff. And again, I'm getting back to the topic. Okay, next question. As a researcher, you're likely involved in sharing knowledge and best practices within the InfoSec community. Can you share any exciting projects or initiatives you've currently working on to advance cloud security?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spend a lot of time doing R&D, just research and development, and specifically, my main areas of interest are identity-based attacks, right? So looking at like intra ID and authentication and conditional access, and trying to find ways to bypass things like MFA. Trying to find interesting like new attack surfaces. So in terms of specific things, I have got a couple ongoing projects right now around just finding like interesting attack paths through identity. But also I'm spending a lot of time working on like leveraging AI for creating workflows to help with cloud research and cloud assessments. So there's a lot of interesting tools out there that we can leverage to help create full-on like workflows where we can have local models, we can have cloud models carry out actions for us. For example, here's a good example. So I have a workflow that's basically like my like research and development assistant of sorts. And the way that works is I am using a tool called N8N. And N8N is an orchestrator / workflow modeler. It's a graphic like visualization engine, which is really nice because you can just drag in nodes real easily. So for example, you can drag in nodes for Python, or you can drag in nodes for AI models. Like, so you can have like Olama and actually have like a local model tied to the node itself. So like, for example, I have a workflow that I task it and I give it like system prompts to basically say, hey, you're Beau's AI assistant, and you are specialized in cloud penetration testing and research and development, and basically like task it with triaging a lot of the latest attack surface. So like every day, like I run a job and it walks through the workflow, and what it'll do is go and pull down all of the various RSS feeds from just a bunch of lists of RSS that I have. So basically just pull all the latest blogs and articles in the last 24 hours, and then use a local model to analyze every single one of those blogs, and then determine whether it's even like worth my time to look at. So like it triages like hundreds of articles for me, so I don't even have to like judge, like go through and like try to even identify if it's worth me looking at. So it'll triage them and it'll give it a score of whether or not it's worth my time. And if it is worth my time, then it passes it off to a much more powerful and capable model that will do deep research and analysis for me for each one of those articles, including writing like POCs, like writing proof of concept code for each one of those cases. And specifically some things that I'm looking for, there are like adjacent attack paths to things that already are being talked about. So one of the big things that happens a lot in security, and it happens to me too, is whenever we go to create something new, like we create a new tool, we find a new vulnerability, and we go talk about it, right? Or we release a new tool. There's a lot of times where the day that we release that, there may have been other things that were like adjacent to that attack or that technique that we're doing that maybe we didn't think about. Like kind of coming back to like the Microsoft documentation thing earlier, and this is kind of reasoning why I am looking at Microsoft documentation so heavily, is because a lot of times, like to give you an example, the Microsoft Graph API, like I wrote a tool called Graph Runner. There's a lot of other things that the Microsoft Graph API can do that maybe I didn't include in Graph Runner. So having a tool to basically go try to find and identify those adjacent things is kind of what I'm doing. Is trying to say like, all right, here's a vulnerability that just was released. What else did that researcher not think about? what other attack paths, what other endpoints, what other API calls are similar and could potentially achieve like an almost identical result, but were adjacent, right? And I've already found vulnerabilities I've reported to Microsoft using this. Like for example, like finding like certain bypasses and like logs. Like maybe some security researcher released some technique, right? But then having AI actually look for adjacent attack paths has been really fruitful. So, anyways, yeah, that's some stuff I'm working on currently.
That's really cool. And like I was thinking like sometimes I do feel like I have this imposter syndrome that I maybe I don't know everything and like, oh, that person is so smart. But then I thought, okay, I'm like learning, I'm not leveraging AI so heavily, and then I'm comparing myself to someone that has like additional help, like and then it's kind of like, why am I doing that? And like maybe I should leverage the tools like more too, and probably start with not comparing myself to other people.
Oh
That
yeah,
would
no,
be the
don't. So
healthiest thing.
first off, nobody knows everything, right? Like I have been in like cybersecurity deep for very very long time, and I'm finding new stuff every single day that I don't know. Like, and that's the mindset you got to have, right? Like if you don't have that mindset, right, that you don't know everything, then you're not going to learn new stuff. So it's a very important thing to realize is that like there is no end, right? Like there is no like knowing everything. There's always something new to dig into for sure.
Yeah, and actually to look at it with like growth mindset kind of. So
Hmm.
I don't know everything, so that's amazing because I can still learn and there's like exciting things ahead of me. But if I know everything, then like what next? It's kind of like life is boring, like I
Yep,
have
yep.
nothing else to learn. So yeah, kind of like maybe growth mindset. Uh, yeah, approach. Okay, my next question is about musical part of
Okay.
you. So, as someone who enjoys music under the name non-bandwidth, uh, I hope I pronounced that well.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. No
and
bandwidth. Yep.
and is also a director of emerging threads. How do you balance your creative pursuits with the demands of your work? And are there any ways in which your artistic and musical endeavors inform your approach to cybersecurity?
Yeah. So I would say that there's not a whole lot of crossover between the two. The only thing that kind of crosses over is like I do include a little bit of like hacker naming type um like hacker culture naming kind of schemas into like a lot of like the song titles and stuff I do. Outside of that, I have done some I would say like puzzles more than like CTF. Like I wouldn't call them CTFs, but I've kind of created like CTF style puzzles that are like kind of baked into a lot of my music. That'd probably be the closest thing that's like the crossover between the two. But yeah, no, for the most part, I kind of keep music and cybersecurity kind of separate. Like I, absolutely can like I can literally walk, 10 feet away and pick up a guitar and be playing guitar at my desk, which is great. But I try to create enough barrier where like I have work and then I have play, and that's I try not to really cross contaminate too much. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I mean, I guess another thing that kind of came close was like I do, or I have been associated with the Futurist project,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which is the comic from Recca Publishing, in a couple ways. So one, I'm kind of like a consultant for it. So it's a comic book that kind of it's kind of a mix between like hacker culture and basically like Black Mirror style futuristic dystopian stuff. Um, and so I help kind of consult on like the actual like hacker side of things. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I help. They send me the scripts and I help kind of consult on that a bit. But also I wrote the soundtrack that goes along with the comic itself. And so that'd probably be the closest I've done to like kind of crossing those two streams, if you will.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, thank you for answering. It was kind of like a complicated and like yeah, curveball kind of question. So you managed it well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. You kind of answered that question already, but I'm going to ask it in a different like angle. So maybe you want something to add. What role does continuous learning play in your work, and how do you prioritize your research and training efforts?
Yeah. So how do I prioritize? I guess it really comes down for me personally. All right. So here's the thing that I think is, after working like 12 years doing pen testing, right? The thing that I've realized and have come to realize is that like um, I absolutely get joy out of doing pen tests for specific customers and doing like the normal day in and day out stuff. However, the thing that I think really kind of drives me and motivates me now are really trying to find things that apply to the larger scale of the world, right? Like trying to find vulnerabilities that affect the masses, right, as opposed to like one company. So the things that I really, in terms of prioritization, are looking for are things that are not just like there's one-off kind of niche vulnerabilities that are only going to affect like small subset of companies, but really I'm trying to identify things that are like at a very broad scale. Like again, kind of back to identity. Like we test so many Microsoft customers that the Microsoft identity side of things is really, really important to me because that's like the heart of most organizations, right? And that's something that if you find any sort of vulnerability around Microsoft identity specifically, like that can affect like every Microsoft customer in the world. So yeah, in terms of prioritization, that's the kind of stuff I'm really kind of focusing on.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you. And another one is kind of like your advices for people that enter the field. So, what advice would you give to someone interested in pursuing a career in InfoSec, particularly those looking to specialize in cloud security? And what skills or experiences do you think are most essential for success in this field?
Oh yeah. So this is a pretty common question that I've gotten over the years, and the thing that I always come back to is learn the basics, right? Like, don't jump straight into I want to be a pen tester. I mean, like you can have that as a goal, right? But for brand new people, maybe you're coming out of high school, or maybe you're still in high school, or maybe you're in college and you're trying to figure out a career path, or maybe you're switching careers, right? Like maybe you're at a point now where you are wanting to jump into something new and exciting. At the end of the day, pen testing in offensive work is a pretty deep subject, right? It's something that takes experience knowing. And so when it comes down to like what I think most people should do, and I'm probably biased because it's kind of what I did, is honestly working on the defense side first tends to be a good place. And the reason is because when you're working on the blue team or working on defense, you're seeing a lot of how organizations work. So you see business flows, so you can get a better understanding about how organizations manage to kind of stay above ground, how they operate, how infrastructure works. But then more importantly, when it comes to like actually like working with like IT, not security, just IT, and learning how switches work and routers and how packets move between different computers. Learning how the internet works, like DNS, all these things, right? All these like core foundational skills. These are things that are like absolutely must-haves if you want to be good at working in offense. And I think that like at the end of the day, like breaking apart routers, like it's so easy to go like to eBay and like buy wireless routers for like cheap, like super cheap, and you can just rip them apart. You can that's one of the first things I did when I wanted to learn wireless hacking is I bought like I don't know like 8 or 9 just cheap Wi-Fi routers, from eBay, and then just tried to like break them, like try to figure out how you could perform different types of attacks against them. And you can do that with anything really. Like you can do that with any sorts of routers. I mean, especially with cloud stuff now, like you can deploy all kinds of systems without having to own anything either. And so when it comes down to like learning those foundational skills, I think you don't necessarily have to like be included in an organization to start doing it. Like you can just go break stuff, but also when you do eventually get into a role at a company, you can see a lot of the moving pieces around security products. And that's, I think for me, going into offense was like one of the most important things was being able to see from the defense side how it was how organizations deployed things like antivirus back then. Now it's EDR, right? How stressful it is to go through those types of deployments as a defender, like because it's not easy. And whenever you kind of see like how a lot of those moving pieces work, it makes you that much better at offense because like where the weak spots are, right? Like you can see from the defensive side potentially like angles of attack that are being missed. So yeah. Anyways, like I guess to boil it down to like one sentence, basically, start on defense.
Actually, also would like add to that maybe a good idea is maybe to start in like a similar field of IT, for example, working in a help desk, so you know how to work with the client, how to talk with to like a difficult client, kind of, and also like I started with software testing, so I learned like a lot about web and like clicking or like the functional parts, and then I just had to add the security layer on that to become the web pen tester. So kind of like there are like other like you don't have to jump into pen test straight away, and usually it's not advisable, but you can also like find like branches of IT or cybersecurity that are connected to that field when it's like an easy step up when you like feel you're ready or there's an opportunity in a company you work at. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Okay. And I want to add three more questions that are kind of connected to the ones that you already answered. So what separates a good pen tester from a great one, in your opinion?
What separates a good pen tester from a great one? It really comes down to motivation and persistence at the end of the day. Like, I think like when it comes to like the great pen testers that I've known over the years, usually they are very persistent, especially when faced with like something that appears to be a wall, right? There's a lot of times where we are trying to, get past something that is frustrating, and whenever those opportunities present themselves, the great pen testers are the ones that keep going, the ones that even when they're seeing like just a ton of failures, right, just keep pushing.
I actually experienced that from my own, like, I don't know, in my own journey, that sometimes I get so frustrated with like the exploit not working or something, or I cannot finish the box on some platform. And then I feel so angry and just like want to smash my keyboard. And then I think, okay, I'm going to give up. I need to go to sleep. And then I think because I have this like persistence, like kind of like I'm stubborn. So I call it never give up attitude. But and then I
So
said, okay, I'm going to give up. I'm going to sleep. And then oh, no, let's try it again. And then usually it works. So it's like
yeah, no, that's exactly it. Yeah. So what's funny is I don't know if they still do it, but Offensive Security, the company Offensive Security that makes Kali Linux, and they have the certifications OSCP, OSWP. So I took the OSCP back in like 2011, so a long time ago. And back then, one of the catchphrases that they have, I don't know if they
try
still have it
harder. Yeah.
because I think yeah, try harder. And so I don't know if they still say that or not,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they do. Okay. Yeah. So that was, like back then, like it was actually, it was brutal back then because like there was no help, right? Like if you hit a wall and when you were going through like the labs and stuff, you didn't get helped at all. Like it literally, like you would get actually. So what was awesome back then, they used IRC for chat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and anytime anyone would ask a question, they wouldn't get an answer. They'd get try harder back. And I think like part of that like really ingrained itself in me, and helps, help drive that persistence and motivation. Right, is the try harder kind of mindset.
Like when I took OCP, I like in hindsight, like kind of like looking back at that moment, I was maybe too green in the field to like pursue it, kind of. But I was like, yeah, 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 OCP. I kind of like, I really wanted to like this. So, but and then the try harder thing was kind of annoying to me because they asked you to do an exercise and it was not explained in the course material, and you had to figure out yourself, like everything. And so, like that was kind of annoying to me because I came into the course with this like expectations that they will teach me pen testing, and actually it
Hmm.
was a wrong expectation because you come to the course with at least 3 years of experience already, and you know all of the things that they will teach you there. So you just do the bam 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 like exercise one after another, and you go into it to get like the challenge, like to test your knowledge that you have. But kind of like wrong approach, so it was annoying to me. But the try harder thing was, I kind of understand what they were going at. So because it's very important in offensive security to find all of the solutions yourself, and you no one will like hand those over to you on a silver platter. And so you have
Hmm.
to know how to do Google dorking to look for the knowledge, to which documentation to read, and like which part of the documentation is the most important, like what flags to use, and like I don't know, nmap scan or whatever.
Hmm.
So kind of like I understand what they were going at. I was just like, yeah, maybe went into the course with the wrong like expectation. So
No, I think a lot of people went into that with the same way. I think that's probably a pretty common thing they run into.
yeah, so yeah, so okay. Next question: what skills outside of hacking, for example, communication, psychology, business, matter most for an offensive security specialist, in your opinion?
Oh, communication for sure is the big one. Especially if you want to be a pen tester, there's an absolutely very vital piece that I think a lot of people miss. It's like you can be the best hacker in the world, and if you can't, well, one, if you can't write the report itself, you're gonna have a bad day. But then two, if you can't actually talk to customers, you're gonna have a bad day too, because a lot of the actual delivery piece of it is communicating what actually happened, right? Like, and you don't. It's not just like, hey, here's a report, bye. At the end of the day, we end up doing like debrief calls with customers and explaining vulnerabilities, and sometimes those calls lead to like more important calls with like the board of directors at a company, or some of the C-suite at a company. And so you have to have like the right mindset to not only technically dive into stuff, but then be able to actually like talk about those findings in a non-technical manner, which not everybody is great at. That's something that I think is absolutely super important.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that because it's maybe the most important part of the job. And I think maybe some people go into the field like thinking, oh, I will be like Mr. Robot, hack all the things, like Black Hoodie, all the stuff.
Hmm.
And then I actually kind of I'm guilty of coming with that same attitude. Although I knew reporting is important, but then I actually had a hard time with explaining like my very like technical frame of mind, and like, oh, I hacked all the things kind of like attitude into business friendly language for the people with the money actually, so they understand what happened, and they don't really care what exploit I use, or like I don't know what vulnerabilities I found, but like what does that mean for their business, and what does that mean for like the company, and like what what should they plan in their budgets, like stuff like that. So it's like super important to be able to translate like super technical like offensive language into like, yeah, what does that mean to me, like what does that vulnerability yeah have like what impact on my
Yeah, the
career
impact.
can
Yeah.
be.
Hmm.
Okay, thank you for answering. That was perfect. And next one is kind of like connected as well. So pursuing a degree, certifications, or hands-on labs, what really matters if you want to, yeah, become a pen tester, for example?
Yeah, so I think this is there's no like single answer for this. I think it kind of comes down to the person. Um, So, I personally, I got a bachelor's degree. I went to college. I also got a ton of certificates, when I started, a number of SAN certificates, number of offensive security certificates. Um, but I have worked with so many people that some haven't even like graduated college, and they're some of the best hackers I know. Um, and I don't really put a whole lot of weight on certs. Like I'm not like if we are trying to hire somebody and they don't have any certificates, that doesn't mean anything to me necessarily. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to what people know. For me personally, and like I said, like I've known a ton of people that they don't have certificates, they don't have degrees, and they're some of the like most awesome hackers I've ever met in my life. So, um, and at the end of the day, like it's not like that they, aren't smart or something, that they didn't go get a degree or go get a certificate. It's usually just the fact that they, just taught themselves. Like a lot of people learn differently, right? Like there's tons of people that learn in different ways. And so like I said, I don't really put a whole lot of weight on certs and degrees. Now, that being said, here's the one thing where certs and degrees can really play a huge factor, and that's if you're trying to get into a large organization. Um, and purely because they have to filter out a lot of candidates. Like a lot of large organizations can't take the time to question everybody and learn everybody's experience level. So for, let's say that you want to go work at Google or Microsoft or Apple or any of the major companies out there, they absolutely will just drop resumes off the table if they don't meet certain requirements, right? And so if you're trying to get into one of those larger organizations, it's going to help tremendously to have certain degrees, certain certificates, that kind of thing. For smaller organizations, right, like smaller pen testing companies, smaller security firms, like even like smaller like just non-security companies like banks, hospitals. Um, Usually let's say that they have like a security engineering job. Usually they might list out certain certificates, like CISSP is a common one you see, or something similar. But at the end of the day, they probably aren't going to like be overflowed with resumes like the bigger companies, so they can take more time to really like analyze the experience of candidates. So um, it absolutely helps if you have the time and the ability to go to college and get certificates. A lot of certificates out there are expensive though. That's another thing is cost, right? That kind of comes in. Um, so if you have the time and the funding to do it, it can absolutely help. But just keep in mind it's not 100% necessary. At the end of the day, the baseline thing that is necessary is that you know what you're doing and that you know how to speak to what you're doing, right? And that's, I think, the key defining factor for most people.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you can also like find like job offers when the employer will like fund the certification for you because they really need it to have in their curriculum and show to the clients that yeah their
Mhm.
team have this certification. So that's also like good to look at. And
And there's
cool.
also there's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of other ways to show experience though too. So that one of the, I think the big things that I think a lot of people see is they're like, oh, you have to have 5 years of experience to even apply for this job. And it's like, well, how do I get that experience? And instead of saying like, oh, I'm not working at a company, so I don't have the experience, there's a lot of other things you can do. Things like a podcast, like running a podcast like this, doing blog posts, right? Like creating content in general. Like that is something that anybody can do, right? Anybody can go start a YouTube channel. Anybody can go start a blog. Anybody can go start a GitHub repo and just start publishing code. um, so if you're wanting to break into security, especially if you're in high school or if you're in college right now, like the best things you can do right now is go create a code repository and then create a catalog of all the stuff you're working on, right? Because then when you go to actually apply for a job, you can say, hey, look what I did for the last 4 years over here. I, wrote all these different pieces of code, or I, released all these videos, and I have, 50,000 subscribers on YouTube or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you can have, there's lots of other things outside of certificates and degrees that help get you that experience as well.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer. Thank you. Okay, next one. Are there any specific tools or techniques that you feel are particularly unutilized or overlooked in the field?
Um, things that are unutilized or underutilized. Yeah, I mean, nothing specifically. I think a lot of tooling these days are kind of getting rebuilt. And it, I saw something. I can't remember who it was that tweeted. I saw a tweet the other day that was basically like, we've entered the age of throwaway tooling. And basically what that means is like, now with AI, like you don't necessarily need to rely on, you know, anybody's tooling anymore. Like if you want to write an nmap scanner or, a port scanner of any kind, like you can go to Claude and you can literally prompt it probably one time and it will create you your own port scanner, with your own customizations. Um, Same thing with, a lot of the exploit tools, right? Like it's we're at a point now where um like we don't necessarily need to rely on things that are already existing. Like if you want to make something, like you can. Like it is at that, like a lot of the AI models, like especially Claude, like the current Opus version, is like just so good at writing code, that like I said, like you don't necessarily have to rely on any one specific thing anymore. You can just go make it yourself. It's a lot
Yeah,
easier.
it's kind of like the age of self-efficiency. Kind of like you don't have to yeah, buy any like expensive tools when you just can like create your own and like just use the parts that you like really need for the job. Yeah, that's actually
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, next one. I already I'm looking at the questions, but like some of them I already asked in a different way. So trying to. Okay, what worries you most about the future of cybersecurity?
What worries me most about the future of cybersecurity? Over reliance on AI. That'd probably be the number one thing.
Yeah,
I think that, right now it's a huge trend, right? It's like everyone is throwing AI into everything. Even on the offensive side, right? Like we are currently building out capabilities that leverage AI to help us perform penetration tests. And I think like the biggest thing is like maintain like a cautious optimism, to the whole thing, because if you over rely on it, then you can introduce weaknesses, right? And I think that like that's probably the biggest thing that concerns me over the long term is just people really getting negligent and over relying on the usage of it. So anyways, that's probably it.
yeah, a quick answer and makes sense. And what's one piece of advice you give repeatedly that people ignore?
um that people ignore. I mean, I tell my kids to clean a lot and they ignore that. But no, for like, I guess like for organizations, like not putting secrets in like clear text, that would be a big one. Like so one of the big things that we find a lot of is like where organizations are just storing like clear text access keys, and things like environment variables, and that's something that I don't know if it's ever going to go away. It's something that we've been yelling a lot. But yeah, no, I mean, I guess of like in terms of like being ignored, that's probably the one right now.
Okay, actually, yeah, I saw that too a lot. So, okay, so if you were starting over today with zero experience, how would you approach that?
Starting over today with zero experience. Um, like even though it was painful, getting thrown into the fire of doing like offensive security, like the OSCP with like minimal help, I think I would still do it the same way, even though it was super painful, because, like I said, like that really kind of helped to define my kind of motivation. Like, um, and like I think that basically being forced to figure things out yourself is one of the best ways to do it. And actually, like it's funny because it kind of goes back to like a similar thing that like I did when I was a kid too. Because like when I was young, like I built a computer, where I tried to build a computer when I was like 8 or 9 years old. Um, and when I was building this thing, I like back then, like I didn't have instructions. There was no like go look it up on. Actually, I didn't even have a computer, so I couldn't even like look it up on the internet at the point, right? So I'm just like following this manual, and I ended up like putting the thermal paste on the wrong side of the CPU and like totally messing up the computer. So I had to get that repaired. But then the thing, like as a kid, that I would do, and it's funny because I still do the same thing today. Is when I was a kid, like we didn't even have like internet. Like we just had like a Windows OS, and this was just like a basic, like probably like just like I don't even remember. Like it was a really like just basic 90s computer. Um, and I think we probably had like it's probably Windows 95 on it. Like it was like around that time. And I remember just like poking around at everything I could, just trying to like figure out what it did, you know. Um, just exploring. And that's, I think, like probably one of the best mindsets to have in cybersecurity, is just like being able to explore, um, and just find new stuff, right? Like, because I didn't know how it worked back then. I mean, I'd never used a computer before, so trying to figure out how it works. And so same thing now, right? Like, I literally find myself like just poking around like the Microsoft Azure portal, just trying to find like new stuff to break. And so I don't know. I think you know, kind of thinking back like to how I did that, like I wouldn't change anything really. I mean, I would still start out, hopefully just being very exploratory, I think that's kind of the best ways to do it.
Yeah, like kind of like the way I test too. So at first, I just yeah, maybe that's not the right way. I don't know, but I don't read the documentation or like any description of what I'm about to do, but just try to walk the application and like find all the things by myself and like
Hmm.
take basic notes, like what I think could be leveraged or exploited or like useful. And then I go another way with like experience and like compare like yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great way.
Okay, next question. What is your favorite hacking tool?
Favorite hacking tool? Probably, I don't know, Python or PowerShell.
Yeah, that's
um,
fair.
yeah, not any specific tool really. And again, back to like what I was saying, like it's so easy to make new tools these days. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, and like with those you can they're like very powerful, so you can create things and like write powerful comments. Okay, so next one. One book every security professional should read, in your opinion.
Ooh, one book. So there's been a lot of good like hacker books over the years, but probably Neuromancer, by
Oh,
William Gibson. That'd be probably my pick.
there is a TV show being developed. I don't know
No
which.
way.
Yeah, it's like I think coming next year. I was so
Oh,
excited to see that.
awesome.
I don't know if it's like
Cool.
Apple TV or like one of those like
Okay.
FX or like I don't know. I don't really remember, but I was excited because I do have the books. And yeah, I will not talk about that. But yeah, exciting times, I guess. Uh, one myth about hackers you want to stop forever.
A myth. That they're all bad guys, I guess. Yes. Also, I think like another myth is that it's all computer related. I think a lot of people, when they hear the word hacker, they immediately think computer, or they think like somebody that is like doing something malicious on a computer. Um, but at the end of the day, anyone who takes anything and figures out a unique way to use it in which it wasn't meant to be used. So you could be a hacker if you basically take like something physical and manipulate it in a way that makes it do something that it was unintentionally or something unintentional, and how it's supposed to be used. So I think like that's when it comes down to the definition of a hacker. I think a lot of people like they focus on the computer side, but at the end of the day, it's like anything that you can break and do something fun with.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of things to learn out there. So stay curious, I guess. Okay. Another one is kind of personal. So if you don't want to answer that one, then or like answer in the way that you want to do. So can you tell us about the time when you felt like giving up on your goals or dreams, but then something inspired you to keep going? And if yes, what was it?
Mm. Something that, let's see, giving up on your goals or dreams. You know, probably, probably back to like whenever, let's see, let me think of a good case, a good use case here. So, so, all right. So when I went to college, um, I was actually playing baseball. So I played baseball my first year of college. And I was like planning on still playing baseball for a number of years. But at the same time, I had a metal band, and I wanted to go be a professional metal musician, right? Um, and then I also liked like IT and security and stuff. So I had like these kind of three things going on, and I had to kind of figure out what was going to play out. So the first thing was I figured I learned that like if I wanted to pursue IT and security, I actually had to like drop baseball because the classes that I wanted to take were at night, which kind of overlapped with baseball and stuff. So I couldn't do baseball anymore, unfortunately. So I had to quit that. So I basically had these two things now. I had music and IT, and so at that point, the music side was like the number one thing for me, though. Like I didn't want to just drop everything and go get an office job and work in security. I wanted to go on tour and play for thousands of people, and so that dream absolutely had to get put on the back burner. So like I wouldn't say like died, but it had to get put on the back burner because I realized that like I had to actually pursue a career, and that if I did want to actually be a musician, I would have had to like drop everything else and go move off to like LA or Nashville or something. So I ended up not doing that, and kind of putting that dream on the back burner while I pursued cybersecurity. And the thing that's it's interesting is like cybersecurity helped me to actually ultimately be able to like kind of fund my hobby, right? My music hobby. So like while my dream of becoming like this epic touring musician didn't actually pan out, I still write and play music all the time, and I still can while having this other thing. So it kind of evolved, right? Like the dream kind of like evolved into something different. But yeah, anyways, I hope that answers that.
So, a kind of follow-up question. So, if you had an opportunity to go on tour, for example, to Europe, would you take that opportunity?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, if kind of asking for myself, so if a conference would invite you with your band, would that be like a yes or
Oh, I mean, so yeah, I mean, it depends
depends?
on like if I can get everything there. That's like shipping stuff or trying to travel with like gear is hard. But yeah, I mean, depending on like the logistics of everything, then yeah, I mean, I would love to. That'd be awesome.
I sometimes have big dreams, but then yeah, I have to connect like big dream and like reality into because I want to organize a conference as well. Kind of like left it on a back burner because yeah, I had like situation in my private life that I thought I cannot handle it right now, but I'm still thinking about the conference, so maybe that's something for next year. And like maybe I will contact you about something about the conference too. Okay.
Okay.
I have a question in the chat here, and it's kind of like a long one, and I will leave it to your best judgment if you want to answer it and like how you want to answer it. So,
Okay.
question for you. Do you have any experience integrating TTI solutions like Flare For example, for securing his like your identity endpoints, given the rise of people scraping Stealer logs and breached credentials and enumerating them on identity endpoints, edge devices identify endpoints or data like identity endpoints. It's kind of, I hope
No, I get the gist of the question. So yeah, we use Flare, and we have been using a version of not just Flare, but we, for a long time we have been collecting a lot of those logs and credentials ourselves at Black Hills. Like we for many years. So it actually kind of goes back, I mean, way way back. There used to be a completely different service that we could pull like previously breached credentials from. And then that kind of evolved into us building our own database, trying to collect a lot of those logs and stuff too. So when it comes into like integrating that, it comes down to this. Like basically, when we're going to do an offensive engagement, one of the first things we'll do is look to see if we already have credentials for a customer, right? Like, and a lot of times we can literally just go to something like Flare or our own version, search through it for the domain of who we're targeting, and we already have like credentials in a lot of cases. Or we can iterate on those credentials, meaning like a lot of people choose a password and then they'll have a number on the end, right? And then we just iterate the number on the end and then have their new password. So we'll try things like that, but that kind of comes down to password spraying attacks. Like we'll try password stuffing with those types of creds we find, but also like versions of those creds. A lot of times we can use for password sprays as well as instead of just stuffing. But yeah, no, I mean, we absolutely integrate it from that perspective, but also not just on the credential side, but just as a way of collecting email addresses for an organization. One of the most helpful things you can pull from those logs are straight up just email addresses, because that can lead to us having like a really solid list for performing other attacks like password sprays and phishing.
And there's a follow-up question. What's your approach to evade detection when you're credential stuffing in an engagement?
That's good. That's a good one. And it's become more tough these days. But so when we're doing, let's talk about Microsoft specifically, because that tends to be the main place we do stuffing attacks against and sprays against. So when we're looking at like a Microsoft cloud environment specifically, like Entra ID, there's like a couple protections that kind of come into place that are like the main things. And one of them is what's called Smart Lockout. So Smart Lockout is a service that Microsoft offers that basically will lock your IP out after 10 attempts in a minute. So if you try to do like 10 password attempts from one IP address in 1 minute, you're going to get locked out for a minute. So to get around that, historically, rotating IP addresses has been the best one. And to do that has gotten a little bit more tough, but it's not impossible. But then the other thing is just limiting your amount of authentication requests. So slowing it down a lot, right? Like just doing a really like low and slow spray tends to be one of the better approaches as well.
Okay, thank you. And now I will go back to my list. So from like a different barrel, what early mistakes shaped you the most as a security professional?
Early mistakes. So maybe that one that I mentioned about putting the thermal paste on the CPU wrong. That'd be a good one, because I mean that was definitely a moment, because I basically broke a very expensive thing at an early age because I didn't know what I was doing, and I like that's a good mentality to have, I think, as a security professional, is like break stuff, but also be aware that you don't necessarily want to break like production, right? Like if
Rules,
you're
yeah.
pen testing an environment, right? Like you want to find vulnerabilities and you want to find like new attack surface, but at the same time, you don't want to shut down that organization. Like you don't want to cause any sort of impact to their business, because at the end of the day, like your whole goal is to help them and not hurt the company.
Yeah,
So yeah, that'd probably be a good example.
and that's an expensive mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what advice would you give yourself if you got back in time 10 years?
10 years, probably buy more crypto.
Yeah, that's a good one. Invest in certain stocks or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, what message would you like to convey to our listeners who are just starting out in their own careers, especially those from underrepresented groups?
It's a lot of fun and there's a lot of opportunity for everybody. I think that the security industry as a whole is something that it's not going to slow down, and something that we're going to continue to have plenty of openings throughout, different organizations. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to build careers. It's rewarding because you get to kind of advance in different areas. Also, there's so many unique areas of cybersecurity to explore. Like it's not just pen testing, right? Like if you are interested in forensics, you can go, analyze like hard drive images and pull off like data off of like a hard drive, or you can do incident response and like actually like respond to active hacking that's happening. You can do engineering, security engineering, where you're actually building out products for a company to help protect them. Like there's just so many areas to look into. And I would say if you're just starting out, explore all of them, right? Like, and try to figure out what you like best, because at the end of the day, like you might like blue team stuff better, right? Like you might like pen testing better, or you might like reverse engineering binaries. Like there's tons of other things. But yeah, that'd be my advice, is just explore.
I have another question in the chat. I think it will be like the last one because yeah, I just have to take a note because I had like an idea of another one I want to ask you. So the question is, how often do you IP rotate in these engagements? If you can answer that, are they residentials, and how often at the same time do you care about also spoofing your TLS fingerprint in each credential stuffing request to try and mimic what browser the victim usually logs in with?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think like that's more probably targeted towards like active red team engagements. So you got to realize, right, is like we do a lot of different evasive engagements and non-evasive engagements, right? Like some engagements we're doing, we're not really trying to be all that evasive. Like for example, if we're doing a cloud penetration test for a company, like it's not really meant to be as evasive as a full-on red team assessment, where we're trying to, again, like what you mentioned, like try to fit into like the normal behavior of a user. Now, if we were doing a red team, absolutely, we try to make it look as realistic as possible, or as normal as possible, right? Like the things that are normally happening for an organization. Try to blend in, right? But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we're rotating IPs or trying to use like residential proxies, like you mentioned, as often as possible. But again, like on like the TLS spoofing side, like not so much unless we're doing like an active red team engagement. I guess is probably the best way to answer that.
Okay, and next question was burnout prevention. Do you have any like advice to people that go into the? I kind of like went into the pen testing into like like this like obsession and excitement, like, and I was like learning all day and then finishing like 10 p.m. So I didn't have like balance to go outside and touch the grass, but like obsession from morning to evening only pen testing. So that's maybe not the good way, but maybe you have like advice for people how to like balance that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So especially at the start of a career, it's much harder to cut off. Um, so if you think about it, like if you're working on an offensive engagement, right, and maybe you fish somebody, right, like you're not going to stop, you know, that attack path at 5 p.m. just because it's 5 p.m. Because I mean, one, you might get kicked out of the account, right? Like that's, like a no-go. So there's been so many times that like I've been on a pen test and it's like I can't stop right now because if I do, like I'm gonna lose my access or lose track of things. Um, but that doesn't happen on every engagement. That's the thing to keep in mind is like there are plenty of engagements where you have plenty of time during your allotted work week to carry out that engagement. And one of the best pieces of advice I got a long time ago is cut off at 5 p.m. As often as you can, right? Like don't unnecessarily push past the normal business hours and actually go do real life stuff, because at the end of the day, it's a job, right? Like
Yeah.
it is a career, and it's something that absolutely is fun for us. We get excited about it, but we also have to live life, right? And so to prevent burnout, like the best thing for me is always just like cut off and go do other stuff, right? Go cook dinner, go play guitar, pick up another hobby, that kind of stuff.
So
Exercise.
yeah, I used to like have this. I mean, I still have the hobby. So I used to do it like I finish my work at 5 p.m. and I go like into like my sports clothes and go cycling straight away, go into the woods, like listen to music and like clear my head. Sometimes I even like sing out loud and people are like, what? It's like really like helps me to, okay, I'm closing the door, closing the laptop, and like this is like the private part starts now, like yeah. So
Mhm.
I do enjoy both, and like there's like yeah, you have to find something that sparks joy for you and like makes your blood run faster, I guess. Thank you, great answer. And I only have like three left. So favorite hacker movie.
Favorite hacker movie. I mean, I don't want to like be super basic and just say the movie Hackers, but it's definitely up there. Um, Honestly, The Matrix for me was probably one of the most pivotal ones, that really had me really start thinking about like what is outside of the box. Um, Tron is up there for sure too. Like I would consider that kind of a hacker movie. War games. But yeah, I guess like if I had to pick one, probably The Matrix. If I had to pick
Oh
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When it first like came out, I watched and like three times in the cinema, and I was like,
Same.
oh, I don't know how to explain because like when I was a teenager and the Matrix came out, maybe Polish cinemas didn't really look like IMAX and like with like the seats like that, like
Mhm.
this panoramic view and like whatever. It was a tiny screen and all the seats were like in this row. So I remember I had like I went for shopping before and I purchased some towels. I don't remember why, but but I didn't see the whole screen, so I was sitting on the towels to like like see more. So I kind of felt bad for the people behind me, but it was nothing really mattered. So kind of like
Mhm.
side note here. Okay, I added that last moment because you're like into musical like and you play in a band. So favorite band, maybe your own, but like yeah.
Oh no. I have a lot of favorite bands. And they've changed over the years. Like number one of all time is probably the band Dream Theater. They they have always been very interesting to me. Right now, Polyphia's up there. Metallica was always a big influence on me growing up. Yeah, just most like metal bands and prog metal, but also I have recently gotten really deep into like synthwave.
Yeah,
So like that tends to be another area for
Master
me.
Boot record, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, actually, like since I was like a kid, I always liked music that had like guitar solos for some reason, and I always like had this dream. Oh, I really want to like be the lead singer in like a metal band, or like learn to like play guitar so well. So I kind of purchased. It was kind of like in the back of my head, and was like pushing that. Oh, it's like later. But then I was sick, and I realized, okay, life is like all like that and could be gone, and I'm still like pushing important things that I really want to do aside, and like and tomorrow, but yet when you realize tomorrow might not come, it's just like I purchased that guitar and like I'm learning, but it kind of like I have this issue with like, okay, I'm learning and it's painful because I'm not great at it yet, and it's like I I really
Oh,
suck.
that's
So that's like the painful part
yeah,
of
no,
like,
that's the hardest. That no,
yeah,
that's the hardest thing about guitar is getting past like the first year. Like realistically, like the first year is the hardest. Like once you kind of get past the first year and you find that you're actually like playing or even parts of a song, it becomes so much more rewarding, and you'll want to pick it up more and more and more. Like that for anybody that's learning guitar, like that is absolutely like the worst part, just that first year.
yeah, and like actually learning the full song, I learned one. I think it was "Too Good" or something from Hosier. Uh,
Hmm.
and so yeah, I learned that song. I was like, oh, I finally like from start to finish, I know everything, because before I just knew like, for example, "Smoke on the Water," like the most important
Hmm.
part of the song, like dun, dun,
Yeah.
like. But then like learning the whole song gave me like, oh, yeah, I'm getting there. So yeah, that was good. Okay, last question: favorite food, because I'm a foodie, so I need to ask.
Oh man, favorite food. Um, that's another tough one. So I do love fish. So that'd be so really like any meal that has fish involved is probably going to be up there for me. But I also love steak. But yeah, I guess like like I make tacos a lot. I make Italian a lot. Make Indian quite a bit, like tikka masala, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I guess like favorite, if I had to pick one food that would be like the only thing I ate or like final meal kind of thing, probably like steak and like a baked potato.
Yeah, I would so go for potatoes. I kind of like explains because that's where I like come from. I come from like a very potatoy region of Poland, and we have like 100 dishes, and they're like all amazing, and like only in that region, like nowhere else. That's why I kind of came back home, because nowhere else in Poland or in the world the food is so good as here. I
Mhm.
mean, I never had steak before, and the steak on Wild West Hacking Fest was like exceptional. Never had anything like that before, so that was mind blowing. So, but like, yeah, my region is like, yeah, I love sushi. I love like Japanese cuisine, like all kinds of, but like
Yeah.
humble potato all day.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay, I digress a bit. So at the end, I wanted to like thank you for coming for my podcast. I ran out of questions, and no one is really asking anything else in the chat. So thank you again. And if you have anything like golden thoughts of Beau at the end of the podcast that you want to share right now, like with the people that are going to watch, then yeah, that's your time now, or like final words.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me on the show. I had a great time. Yeah, no, if you are interested in taking any classes, anti-training.com is the place that I teach them. So that's it.
That's it. Okay, so now I'm going to wave and like thank you again, and thank you. Yeah, and I wanted to quickly like show off my social media here, and I'm going to do the ending subtitles now. So see you next time. Bye.